a woman came up to me and she asked me about what about Ethernet adapters and grounding. And then somebody was saying, "Oh, I do grounding sheets." Can you just touch on that really, really quickly about why we don't really ground anymore directly in the city?
Yeah, I don't typically recommend grounding, really grounding sheets or anything, especially here in the city. Um, and it has to do with, I mean, the electricity that's coming into our homes. There's the everything that we plug into the walls. There's two wires. There's one wire that's more hot. It's going to be sourcing the electric field. One that's going to be returning it back. And it's the one that's returning back. It's called the neutral line. And in Canada and North America, around the world, the neutral line has to be grounded. So it has to be taken into the earth as per code. So really it's a current carrying conductor here on the neutral that it's tied to ground. And this is really what you're plugging yourself into, the electrical ground that's tied to this neutral. And as an electrical engineer, we all know that, I mean, the electrical grounding conductor or that grounding circuit, it's the most contaminated circuit that there is. And to think about plugging yourself into that, for me, I just don't recommend it.
Right.
And I've had people, I've had clients do it and they report back to me that they're not feeling quite right. And they end up unplugging their grounding sheets and things start to get a little better for them. So,
In fact, that's what happened to
um,
me, right? We
yeah.
got the sheets, we bought them for like $300 to $400. I ended up ruining them in the wash because you have to wash them. These things are very, very delicate too. A lot of them don't end up working if you wash them the wrong way. But we were using them for like a couple of months, and I in the beginning I wanted to believe it was like a detox, and they like, oh, you just got to get through that hump, like your body throws off a lot of stuff. But honestly, it never got better for us really, and I just felt worse. And we weren't even directly attached to the ground. We were actually literally we put like a 9 foot pole in our backyard and I think maybe there are some things that we've done now that I don't know. Again, the grounding in the house in a city, I'm kind of with Kevin on that.
Yeah,
I
well, I
think
mean,
the
if you're at the beach, for example, you're walking around
yeah,
on bare feet, you're
yeah,
you're
so
you're
different.
grounding. It's different, but it's not the
Yeah.
same though. Like when you're grounding yourself by means of a conductor, copper, it's copper between you and the ground. And this whole idea of the conducting electrons and all these that what we believe is really happening there. We think there's electrons moving. That whole idea is it's not correct. I don't believe that that's correct.
Okay.
There's a misunderstanding with grounding there, and I think that's always been my recommendation is to just
But I want to clarify here. I think if you live in a place like you're not around so much crap and you're not in a huge city, then I think grounding in maybe more rural areas actually can be beneficial. And I've heard people tell me, or at least people have told me they feel so much better grounding. And there are entire documentaries and I've watched them on like, using all these grounding tools and people are getting way better. And so I'm not throwing it out completely. I'm just saying in our personal experience, we have not had luck with grounding living in a larger city. And what I would say to people is that I still ground in a city, but I will take my shoes and socks off and I will go walk on my grass outside. And if the grass is like morning dew and it's a little bit wet, even better. Again, if you live by a beach, you live by sand, you are the luckiest person in the world because I think that's the best place to ground, especially if you're by the ocean. I definitely all totally into that, totally into being exposed, full on skin to sun, without, okay, I don't want to make any of these things because people are going to say, you need sunblock for skin cancer. I don't use sunblock. I don't use any of that stuff. I will use some natural sunscreen at some points. But you need the sun for vitamin D. And I think you need grounding for just essentially to reduce your inflammation in life when you're doing it the way that we were meant to ground, which is
but
actually
if
attaching your body to the ground.
if you are using them, I mean, if you do have grounding sheets and you are plugging them in, I mean, there's a device you can buy. It's from another building biologist who's actually designed it. It's something called the NCB, It's a nuisance current blocker.
Oh, this is
He's
what you were saying
actually
that we should try, right?
he's actually designed that specifically for grounding products.
Oh, okay.
Reduce any of that to really put a barrier in between really this electrical ground that's so contaminated and you, so that this circuit that he's designed is to block that. Now,
Okay.
I've never used it. Whether it's helpful or not, I can't say. I just want to say that, but there is something out there for this
Oh,
specifically that
okay.
you can plug your grounding sheets into.
Okay. Well,
Just thought I'd mention that.
we got to get our hands on that so that we can actually
Yeah.
try it because maybe this would be a way to ground in the city. It's just that what we found so far has not been extremely helpful. The only thing I did, and I do still advocate for barefoot sandals, like the grounding sandals, just because they're just sandals. The reason with our shoes, there's a problem with our shoes is that we are on not plastic, on rubber. It doesn't allow you to connect to the earth when you're actually walking on rubber. So some of these shoes are now being made with a conductive material or sometimes just leather so that you can actually get a good ground when you're walking outside. You know, that's why some they call some of these things like barefoot and all these things. I actually advocate for a company that sells sandals and it's on my website. Last but not least, this was actually so interesting because this is how I want to wrap up this video. One of the last questions that I got right at 9 o'clock, where I was trying to pack up, and a woman decides she's going to throw this question at me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's a loaded question." She says to me, "Okay, you guys have had all these health issues, and you've talked about so many things, and we did. We talked about so many things in this video today." She says, "Well, you guys look so good." And I was like, "Thank you." And she's like, "You guys," and I said, "But it wasn't always this way. Even a couple of years ago, I was not doing really well with my Crohn's." And I will get into that in other videos. But and Kevin was not doing well many years ago. You like I was telling her, he could barely walk, I could barely walk. He was going partially blind. I was like 88 pounds. I couldn't digest food. Kevin's skin was literally like essentially burning off of his body. He had rashes all over the place. You were having neurological problems. They thought you had MS. So we had a lot of problems like fibromyalgia, like the list just goes on and on. So she had said, with all that, what are the top three things that helped you guys heal your bodies? And Kevin, I will let you get into your top three and maybe elaborate a little bit because we've done videos on this. We've been talking about this for like since 2016 on our other channel. So, in a nutshell, what do you think has helped you the most in the last 20 years of dealing with all of this stuff?
Yeah, well, my Lyme was at its worst. A lot of neurological issues were happening. Um, One thing that I found, and when I actually had some a natural dentist who I met, I actually did about an evaluation of my mouth, my jaw. What was going inside my mouth was pretty much a disaster. From, amalgam fillings to multiple root canals to wisdom teeth extractions that went horribly wrong. I had
Very horribly
one
wrong.
root canal that they ended up pushing that root canal filler. They pushed it way up into my sinus, which was causing some
Punctured the
issues with my
sinus.
eyesight and all kinds of other problems. And that was a big thing to discover. And it took me years to actually deal with that. But as I chipped away at it, I noticed that my health started to improve dramatically just by dealing with those and dealing with all those infections inside my mouth. And yeah, that was a huge one for me. So that's probably definitely number one. Number two, yeah, reducing the harmful EMF took me several years to get through all this stuff as I was learning and going. It didn't all happen in one shot. Like some people are just anxious to get everything fixed in their home and get it all done. It takes time. And, as we did that, I noticed some improvements, and of course, introducing some of the other, natural frequencies and light, the photon genius that we have here, was a huge help for me. Infrared saunas, other red light type of support, all that kind of stuff has been helpful. And number three, probably stress management. I've got some pretty great tools that help combat stress in an amazing way. And it's helped me deal with life when it gets challenging. And I've done some things, and stress is a killer. Any disease that you have, stress just makes it worse. It's like an amplifier. So we need to find ways to keep that under control, and that's been very helpful for me with my mind, managing my mind, all that stuff. So that's it for me.
Okay, I think that's really great. And I think you've touched on a few of the things that I think is probably huge for me too. For me, if I could do it, if I could go back, I would do it backwards, actually. You went pretty much in chronological order as to how things happened for you. I think the reason why I stayed stuck for so long was because I think one of the biggest things that I've had, and I've dealt with this since I was a child, was I had a lot of trauma in my life. Growing up, there was always a lot of trauma in my household. Later on in life, I had a lot of trauma, had stressful jobs. And then when I got sick, that was a lot of stress. So I think for me, while I don't like to say that, oh, it's just stress and anxiety, because that's what the doctors did for years, they played it off on that. There is truth to that. Not that it was that I didn't have any, they were playing it off like the health issues that I was having was that they weren't real. They were real. But I think that having some of the issues that I had when I was younger with all the problems that I had with my gut, not necessarily Crohn's because I didn't have that. I didn't get diagnosed with that until I was 28, is I think that if I could have managed my nervous system a little bit better and I could have worked on self-regulation and my parasympathetic nervous system, I think when I did start to heal those chronic illnesses, things would have happened a lot faster for me. I tend to be very high strung. I have a lot of energy. I tend to be a night owl. So that was something that I think was really detrimental to my health for a very long time. So if I could go back and do it all again, I would have worked with somebody right off the bat on learning how to manage stress, like you said. I would have worked on trauma release. I would have dealt with that right away. I've now found somebody that I find is really helpful, that I've done some energy work. And then I also do something called, I was telling a lady last night that I do something called brain retraining, which I found very helpful. And she does some self-regulation through a particular technique called spinal flow. So that's where I would have started. Number two, then I would have, instead of going at my body so much and trying to kill everything, and I think we started doing this pretty early on too, because we knew right away that something was wrong with the EMF, because that's what, and I ended up in the hospital after doing all the stuff that we did to the house. I think my number two would be that I would assess, now that I've dealt with my trauma, I'd be assessing my outside environment. And by that, for me, it wasn't just the EMF. That was a huge, huge portion of it. The light was a big portion of that as well. And then I think for me, I had major, major, major sensitivities. So like food, water, again, we didn't even talk about structured water here, but having good quality water, drinking water, because I'm terrible at drinking water. I used to eat really, really crappy when I was growing up. I ate a lot of fast food. And then dealing with all the chemical sensitivities that I had and all the food sensitivities. So I did that anyway, but I think that in itself is just one category, like dealing with all the toxic overload burden that you're putting into your body on a daily basis. That's like that was really, really huge for me. And cleaning that stuff up. Because I think a lot of people, when they get sick, they're like, I want to go to the doctor and the doctor is going to give me a pill, or the naturopath's going to give me a supplement, or I'm going to do IV infusions. And I did all that stuff, by the way. I did the IV infusions. I did IV DMSO and 5-pass ozone, 10-pass ozone. I did all those things, like so many things that you can't even. I never did stem cells, but I was like literally right there from doing that, which I'm glad I didn't do, because I'm hearing about a lot of terrible things about that now. But I did. I honestly, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars with naturopathic doctors. And I would say that maybe of all the people I saw, I would say maybe two of them were helpful. And one of those people was also Kevin's practitioner, who is literally his dental surgeon, who literally became kind of like a naturopathic doctor in herself. And she's helped me immensely over the years. And there's a couple of other practitioners as well. So that would be my number two. And then, of course, I will say that there too, the machines helped, like, doing things subtly, like frequency medicine, light therapy, things like that, I think was better for me than even the fact that I worked so I worked in the nutraceutical industry for 9 years, and I used to take dozens of supplements. Like at one point we were taking like 40, 50 supplements a day. And I think at one point we got so sick. And I think that you can really hurt yourself with taking a ton of supplements, and you can really overburden your liver. And what people don't understand is that if your gut doesn't function and doesn't work, you're just really creating a lot of really expensive urine and poop, essentially. Because if you can't assimilate or digest those things, you're just passing them. And hopefully you're passing them without them causing some type of kidney or liver damage or something like that. I'm not saying that I don't take supplements. I'm just saying that it's best to find out what you need and only take what you need and get the rest from everyday life, like foods and stuff like that, and good quality water. Lastly, to finish this off, mine is daily consistency. So I'm really bad with being consistent on things. So what ends up happening with me, and this is probably why I've had some hiccups along the way, some really bad hiccups in the last 20 years, is that when I'm feeling amazing, I stop doing all the things. I start to think, oh, I'm doing great. I don't maybe need to do all these healing routines that I used to do every day. Maybe I don't have to do my smoothie anymore. Maybe I shouldn't detox for a couple of years. Who cares if I'm staying up until 3 o'clock in the morning? And who cares if I'm not sleeping the best or stressing out a little bit? So I have now realized, and I'm still working on this. By all means, I'm no professional on this. I still have problems. Like I said, I will get into another video. I was really, really sick 2 years ago. I ended up in the hospital. And the reason for that being is because I think with everything that was going on in the world, and we had a lot of deaths in our family, the stress eventually got to me. And I was working myself around the clock and not taking the time that I needed to heal and rest and repair on a daily basis. So I would say create a consistent pattern that you're doing every single day and stick to that. And don't like I've talked to so many people, I've had clients over the years that like they'll do something for like 2 or 3 weeks and they're like, oh, that didn't work. So they go on to the next thing. And then they go on to the next thing and the next thing. And I will talk to people who have like chronic illnesses and they've done like 5 or 6 different modalities in a matter of 3 months. And I tell people, unless you've been doing something for 3 months, you're never getting the full effect of that thing. So consistency is really key when you're trying to heal your body on a deep cellular level. And I would say that, not only do you need to address your body, but you really need to address the mind and the spirit space as well. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. And closing thoughts, I just wrote out that this is a lot of stuff to unpack that we talked about in this video. This is a lot of stuff. And this is stuff that took us 20 years, almost 20 years to get to this place that we're at right now. And we do not expect people to do all this stuff. I don't even expect people to do 10% of this stuff right away. So what I would say to everybody is reducing exposure where you can, do what you can, supporting your body's resilience and regulating your nervous system. Because the other thing is if you watch all this stuff and now you're having, and I've seen people do it where we come into people's houses or I work with other people on like other health related things. I give them a lot of information. People tend to get overwhelmed and then it's the stress that makes you worse. So with that said, I'm going to leave it at that. We're giving you the information. We're not even expecting, and allow yourself the grace period to be like, it's okay that I don't do all these things. I'm just taking it one day at a time. I'm going to maybe try this today. Maybe I'm going to use my phone a little bit less. Maybe I'm going to put it on airplane mode because I wasn't doing that before. Maybe I'm going to call Kevin and get him to come in and do an assessment and just look at what it is that I'm dealing with so I actually know what it is that I'm dealing with instead of taking it on myself to go buy a meter and figuring it out and becoming an EMF specialist yourself. If you don't have to, like I've been with Kevin for 20 years. I have never touched a meter. True, right? I've never touched a single one of your meters because I trust that you know what you're doing as a professional and you're going to do it. He's going to do it. I have enough on my plate that I do not now need to worry about that. With everything that's going on in the world right now, I have so much stuff going on that if I can trust him as a professional to do that, I'm just going to let him do it. And yes, I know he's my husband, so he's done all the stuff in our house, and that might be easier said than done. But in the grand scheme of things, if this is going to create a lot of stress for you, it would be no different than like hiring somebody out to do anything. Like if you're not a plumber and your freaking house is flooding because you got a leaky pipe or whatever the hell it is, then you're going to call a plumber to do it. Maybe you might do it yourself. That's great if you can. But if not, you want to stop that leak and you want to just get somebody else to do it for you. I'm not saying that you shouldn't take responsibility. You should definitely do that. And Kevin is a very good teacher. So when he comes into your house, half of it is him doing the actual inspection for 3 to 4 hours. And then half of it's because he wants to stop and talk to you so that you understand what it is that he's doing, so that you learn and you can take that knowledge and actually carry that into your car, your workspace. You can go to your brother's house, your sister's house, your mother's house, and you could say, hey, do you know that you shouldn't do this? Or do you know that you can fix this or do that? So that's where I'm going to leave it. I think this is a good way to end it off. Kevin's smiling. It's 3 o'clock in the morning here. We're exhausted, but I did want to get this out there because I think this is really super important. And I didn't get to record the actual meeting, so I wanted to be able to include all of you in on it as well. So I will bid you adieu and I will say goodbye. And if you have any questions, you can leave them down below. And hopefully we will do more videos like this in the future. And is there anything else that you want to add to that?
All good?
It's all good. He's like, I just want to go to sleep now. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching all the way through. If you
All
did, in
right.
fact, watch all the way through, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.